Good day, everyone. This is Tanya with Roundy's Rants, Raves, and Reviews, and I'm here with my good friend and editor, Debbie Rasmussen. You got Debbie Ihler Rasmussen, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
okay.
that's fine.
Is your
Debbie.
author name. And Debbie, tell us about yourself and kind of what you do.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for having me on. First of all, Tanya, this is really fun. Well, I write. That's my
A
first
lot.
priority. Yeah, I write. So I've published 8 books. I've done 2 ghostwriting books in the last, well, I've been writing for a long time, but I started publishing in 2014. And then I've been doing content editing for Rich Paul Evans author group for, going on 4 years, I think. So I've done lots and lots of books for editing. And during that process of editing, I found out how many people needed help with self-publishing. So I spent quite a bit of time. I'd self-published my own books, so I knew the process, but just streamlining it and making it easier for everybody to go through. And so then now I teach that along with it. So most of the time I do a lot of self-publishing help for people that I don't edit as well, but I walk them through that because we have a good team that works with it and gets everybody through their books. So yeah, that's what I do, self-publish, edit, and write.
She's very busy with a lot of things. We were just talking about that. It's incredible because you helped me through the self-publishing process and you said it made it seem so easy between everything.
Good.
What was it like for you when you first started doing it that
Uh,
was it as easy as you make it for us?
so I will tell you, do you want me to just briefly tell you how that started?
Let's do it. Yes.
All right. So I was writing, just work. This is back in 2009. And finally I got a book done. I was taking care of my mom. So finally in 2014, I had a book ready, which was Mystic Angel. And I hadn't told anybody I was writing the book. I was just writing, just my own little private little writing
Good
thing
for
going on.
you.
And then and it was CreateSpace back then. I knew nothing about Ingram Sparks or anything like that. So I went on CreateSpace and I uploaded it and I created my little cover and I remember it was about midnight and I hit submit and I was terrified to send it through. I was terrified. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to be out there. Who knows? Blah, 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 blah. And then I got up to go to the restroom about 2 o'clock in the morning and I was just curious. So I checked it and it said, your book is live. And my heart was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But the weird part was oh, yay, me. I was all by myself at my house. I hadn't told anybody I was doing it. But doing that process was not easy. It took me a long time to figure out how to, I was going to say manipulate, it's not what I meant. Go through, CreateSpace and create the covers. I mean, the steps were there, but it was a process and a half. So I got through all that, got that book published. And then, of course, I met Richard Paul Evans in 2018. His suggestion was to change everything. And so my covers, not the interior, he liked my writing, but to change, upgrade my books to better
Right.
covers.
Yeah.
So I did that. Well, I was hooked up with a gal that helped me through the self-publishing process, but basically she didn't help me through it. She just showed me go here. She did it for me. She did all the
Mm.
stuff for me at that time. So I didn't really learn much except for anyway. So then she disappeared and I thought, okay, I've got to figure this out myself. And so it was interesting with all the different mistakes I made. And I didn't do Amazon because I learned through that process you need to go on Ingram. So I went there and watched. And it's honestly, it's not that hard unless you hit a glitch.
Mhm.
It's when you hit a glitch, it's like, oh, whoops, now what do I do? And then it backs you up. And so I've got it down now, but there's a lot of preparation up to that point. The why we do ISBNs, why do we LCC, and I have all those questions that come up all the time. So I outlined it into a simple process. And now it's even more streamlined since you and I work together because I have it step by step. And the whole goal, that we're trying to accomplish is that our books don't look self-published.
Exactly.
So if you go all through all the right steps and information, it works that way. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. That's what I do. So when I get with you guys, I can just give you the steps. Go do this. And while we're doing that, let's do this. And it's systematic now. But for some authors, it's still really hard because now what do I do? There's a lot of that, but that's okay. That's what I'm here for. So,
And I appreciate that because, yeah, I couldn't. I think that was one of the things that when I was thinking about publishing and doing that was very daunting. Is like because you think you have to go through these traditional publishers, or you think
mhm.
self-publishing is all this complex, and you made it so manageable for us that
Thank
or at
you.
least for me anyway, it made it feel less stressful. I
And more
appreciate
fun.
that.
The whole idea
Yes,
is to make it fun. Yeah.
when we pushed go and it was live, I was like, it was. I was like, okay.
I know. It's just there's nothing like it. That's such a great feeling. And the other thing too is all these steps
Mhm.
prior to actually pushing that button is it can be to help people to get ready for traditional publishing as well. I
Right.
did figure that out because it gets their manuscript and everything all ready, so it's prepared. So, and I know my editing is different than most people. You're aware of that too.
Yeah.
I don't like red light editing. I'm different in that respect. And I've researched a lot of editors and I've been to a lot of editors' classes. And I take things from them that I can learn, but I don't like red light editing. But there's one reason for that, and that's because I want to talk to you.
Mhm.
I want to be on the phone with you and walk through it together, and you can tell me why you feel like that needs to be there, or why I tell you why I don't think it needs to be there. But at the end of the day, it's the author's book. So it's always the author is always going to win. I'm not trying to change anybody's story or anything like that, but I find it such a better process. I have been on the phone for 7 hours with one call.
Yeah.
No kidding.
I,
Just, I
I
mean,
I heard that the other day. I was like, oh my goodness.
I know. I think my longest is 7. The average is probably 3 to 4, just to walk through
Yeah.
the whole process. And the thing is, this is why, so I hear different people that charge this amount for this much editing. I don't do it that way. It's a flat fee for the whole, and it's a project that I do from start to end. And honestly, if I figured out the hours, I'd probably die. I don't know. I don't even look at the hours. To me, it's a project that's got to be done. And if you charge by the hour for that, there's no way to get these books done that people can actually really afford it. So I see why some editors break it down, but that's not what I want to do. So it's really my goal is to get them all the way to copy that is completely ready for copy and with as few of errors that need to be fixed as possible. But I know they need copy after me for the most part. Most people do. So,
Well, and I appreciated that. We spent a couple hours at a time, I know, on my book and stuff, and I really appreciated because one of the biggest things I was nervous about going in was as a teacher, I'm doing what you're doing with my students, definitely not getting paid what I need to on that
right.
on that end. And I'm doing the copy and I'm doing all these things but I'd never had anyone do with me as a teacher ever that process. And
Oh,
so I was so nervous going into the editing process, like, oh my goodness, what are they going to find? Because I'm like, I'm an English teacher. I should know better, right? I should have everything perfect before I go in. And but you were so good, and I loved how you did it. I love that you weren't redlining it because that would have, like, killed the perfectionist in me, I think. I would have seen all those things and like, "I'm a failure, and quit right now." But your method of just having those conversations and talking with us, like, "What were you wanting? What are you doing?" and helping and
mhm.
guiding me was such a beautiful process, and I was like I remember I was like, "That's what I do with my kids," and it was so nice to have someone who did that with me too. 'Cause I
Good.
think that's what I needed, and I really appreciated that part of it was actually an enjoyable part of the writing process that I didn't think I was going to enjoy,
I know. I could tell
right?
and you told me that you said, I know that I do this for students. And sometimes you would laugh and go, oh, I tell my kids the same thing. But it's because we get it ready to the process, Fred, but we don't edit our own stuff well enough to move it ahead because we miss things. We just do. I mean,
Mhm.
we read things, our brain fixes whatever is supposed to say. And so it's like, what's wrong with that? It looks perfectly fine to me.
We know it. It's there. We just
Yeah.
fills in all the blanks. Well, so you started writing in 20 you say 2014, 2015, your book, but you've been writing for a long longer than that. When was it you first really got into writing?
Okay. So apparently I'd forgotten about this, but my little sister's, one of her friends that was little friends in school, they're 4 years younger than me. She emailed me one day. She goes, Debbie, remember when you used to write those little books and read us stories? I'm like, no, I don't remember that. But I was in elementary school and I used to write. And now looking back, I remember sitting on the lawn. I remember stapling them together and I would
Mhm.
write these little stories. But she remembers that so well. She said that was so much fun. So I've apparently been writing forever. But when I was in seventh grade, and I know you know this story, when President Kennedy was killed, I wrote a story about a 12-year-old girl named Debbie
Can't
that wanted,
imagine.
I know, right? She wanted a trip to the White House. And it's
Mhm.
now I read that now. In fact, one of the authors wanted me to read it, and I'm like, oh gosh.
Oh,
I mean, I
yeah.
was 12, okay?
I know, right?
She has a crush on the Secret Service. I mean, really.
It'd be a
But she,
Hallmark movie nowadays, right?
you know, no, right? But anyway, I wrote it and my friends read it while I was writing it. We'd pass the pages around.
Mhm.
And that was it in seventh grade. In ninth grade, my ninth grade teacher, Miss Harlan, called me in while I was at lunch. I remember getting called over the intercom to come to her class. I'm like, what did I do?
Oh no,
So
I'm
I
in
went up
trouble.
there and she said, first she said, you got an A plus on your, she was check plus. She never did A. She got an A plus on your book
Check.
report. I go, oh, and you called me here. Why? To tell me that. I thought it was so weird. And she turned around and she picks up these papers and I'm going, what is that? And she said, I just got 5 book reports on a book I've never even heard of. And I was like, what? And she said, 5 book reports. She wouldn't tell me who gave them to her, but it had to be a bunch of my friends that had read it,
Right.
obviously. So she said, oh, she didn't pick up. I'm sorry, I erased that. She picked up my book report, which is just papers. And then she said, I'd like to read that book. And I'm like, no. I was so embarrassed. I'm like, no. I wrote it in seventh grade because I'd really like to read the book, Debbie. So I brought it to her on Friday and she gave it back to me on Monday. And what she said to me is what I'll never forget. She said, if I don't see something published by you before I die, I'm going to be very disappointed. You're a very gifted writer. I will never forget those words. That's exact words too. I've never forgotten it because I had never shared my writing with my mom, or I wrote poems and stuff all the time and I gave them stuff, but nobody took me serious. In fact, my sister even said I used to wake up in the middle of the night, Debbie's writing again, because I'd be sitting at our desk with a little light on writing because mom would get mad at me. I'd have to go to bed. So I'd
Mhm.
wait till she went upstairs and I'd get up and write. But I just didn't share with anybody. I didn't, it was just me. So and then even when I did later on, I didn't get a whole lot of encouragement from anybody particular. They just know I like to write. So she's the one that gave me the encouragement. She had enough faith in me that I could write. And then when I wrote Mystic Angel, I needed beta readers. And I was at work when I worked at Discover. And I asked my boss, I had it at my desk.
Mhm.
And she says, what are you doing? And I told her, and I said, I need to find beta readers. She goes, I'll do it. And I said, oh my gosh, are you kidding? And I found out she was an editor, which freaked me out. I
Oh
was like,
no.
she's not on my boss, but she's an editor and she's going to read my book. I was dying. But I gave her the manuscript and she was going to Australia. And her daughter sent me a picture. She was sitting on the plane and had my manuscript open because I printed it for her.
Mhm.
And she goes, and so it begins.
Forget the vacation. She's just been
I
reading the entire time
I
now.
was terrified. She came back and she gave that to me. She goes, oh my gosh, Debbie, I could hardly even put it down. She said
Wow.
it's so good. So again, that was her, Miss Harlan in ninth grade, and then Marie in Discover. And it's basically kind of emotional too, because she's always supported me. Marie has. She buys everything, whatever I do. I'm like, are you reading these?
They're just sitting on a shelf.
And I think she does read them. She actually moved out of Utah and she lives in South Carolina now, I think, but she still keeps in contact with me. And those two people, I mean, because my kids haven't even read my books. They joke with me about, Mom, we need audiobooks because we're always driving. And my middle daughter said, I'm just waiting for the movie to come out. And I'm like, oh, brother, well, that could be a
You're gonna be
while.
waiting.
Yeah, she would be waiting a while for that. But a lot of my grandkids have read them and many of my friends. So I have pretty good readers group. To me, they're not fans, they're readers. Rick always says, those are fans. I'm like, no, I don't have any fans. I have people that read my books. I don't
Mm.
ever think of it that way, and they're very loyal. In fact, one thing I've learned, usually when I write something, they buy it.
Yeah,
So,
get that. That is
yeah, I don't
amazing.
have hundreds of millions like a lot of famous authors, but I do have a pretty good following. So,
And I'd say the best base is the ones that are going to keep them back, right? That's
yeah,
what you want.
yeah. And did I tell you that I'm doing another trilogy for Mystic Angel?
You said that, and I can't wait because I've wanted to know more.
There's I got a message from 2 girls in Salt Lake that had read them, and they actually asked me if they could call me on the phone, and they did. And she said, there are so many characters in these books. You could go so many places with these. But I've been asked many times to continue it on. So I thought, so that's Mystic Passage. So I'm trying to get done right now is Mystic Passage. And the backstories help because I've written 2 backstories and they help with the
Right.
characters.
Mhm.
But developing the story further,
Forward.
yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's really a lot I could. But the funniest thing I've had is the lady that wanted to know where the mansion was. She wants to go there, and I'm like, it doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
She said, "Oh, I don't believe that. Where is that mansion?" She goes, "There's no way." I said, honestly, made it up in my head. She did not believe me. She was so funny. She goes, I can't believe this. You created that. She was positive. This town doesn't even exist.
Right. I mean, it's not like we're some writers who are like basing it on a town like,
I know.
Faulkner or anything, but it's just all up here in Debbie's head, people. So
I
cool.
know. But that's okay.
Well, you were an avid writer then, even at a young age. And we've talked several times that to be a good writer, you need to be a reader
Reader.
and stuff like that. And so I know you read all of our books and you're editing all of our books all the time. But what were you reading at a young age and through these things that inspired you? Because you write a very wide range, or you write a very wide range
Right ranges. I
of
do. Yeah.
text, but especially one that not many people do read a lot and do with paranormal and sci-fi and stuff like that. And so tell me a little bit, what were you reading and what was inspiring you when you were younger?
You know what? When I was a kid, I read, do you remember the Annette Funicello
Mm-hmm.
books? Maybe I'm way older than you, but she wrote Mysteries and Annette Funicello and then Trixie Belden. I
Mm-hmm.
read the Hardy Boys. I read, I can't even think, but all those mystery series. I read all those that kids got always. And I read, of course, Little House on the Prairie. I read all that stuff, but those didn't really inspire me to what I write. I love the mystery. That was my big thing. I really liked the mystery. And my favorite book was called The Pink Dress, which is not a mystery. It was a it was in Sue and Dave were the name of the they were in high school. And it's just a really little romance, you know.
I was gonna say,
But
is it a romance?
yeah, that book was checked out. There were two in the library because they had to check them out. Then you didn't buy them,
Help,
and
yeah.
it was always checked. My name was always on. I checked it out over and over. And about 3 years ago, I decided to go on and see if I could buy it,
Uh-huh.
and it was $369. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
that ain't gonna happen. So I just put
Nope.
it in my cart and I waited, and I ended up getting it last year for $18.
Oh
And I
goodness.
read the book and I just laughed. I'm like, oh brother.
This is what I was into over and over again.
Just over. But I love watching mysteries to this day. I love watching crime mysteries, and
Hmm.
I don't write that kind of necessarily. I don't like crime novels like some of our
Hmm.
authors do, but I just love the mystery. And then the paranormal, I've had a lot of experiences with that kind of stuff, honestly and truthfully, just personal. So it all came together for me because the spirits and all that come into it. And I get asked all the time, are these books scary? And I'm like,
No.
they're not scary. They're mysterious is the whole idea. And they're supposed to keep you moving along. So yeah.
And I will say I'm not usually a paranormal reader. I mean, I did, which is interesting because read all the mysteries when I was growing up, and there was some paranormals that I read as younger. But
Mhm.
when I got older, I wasn't much into them. But I couldn't put yours down. I was like all the way through, and then I had to read the second one. My poor husband was like, "Are you going to sleep tonight?" So, but I love the complexity of the story though, because you wove everything together so well between the stories and you set us up for things that twists and turns and things like that. So, Mystic Angel was your first book, and
Yep.
then that series. But you have another one that's very interesting because it weaves in some cultural and religious
Yeah.
paranormal types of things. Tell us a little bit about Crow series here.
That's Legend of the Crow. And that book started. So again, I was at work and I was trying to figure out what to give my grandkids, because at the time there were 15 of them, what I was going to give them for Christmas, because I don't give them toys, all they have enough stuff. And I thought I'm gonna write a little story for each of them. So I was sitting at work and I had asked each of them, if you could be a superhero, what would you want to be? What would be your magic power? And they all chose it. So I wrote a little story about each of them, and I just gave them to them at Christmas, and they loved them. And their parents read them, and different friends read them, and then my friends at work read them because they're like, "What are you doing?" And because what I did is I gave them. They didn't have the names they have now. I used their names and wrote them backwards.
Oh,
But it was so hard for people to read, so I had to go get
real
real names.
names of some
Yeah,
kind of thing in there. Yeah.
they're like, "How do you say this?" And it seemed very clever, and it wasn't their book, but it wasn't when it came right down to it. So anyway, says you should make this into a book. So I created Legend of the Crow is about a great grandfather from Norway. That's where my father's ancestors are. That they had superpowers in this whole family, but this one father did not want his kids to have these powers. So he moved to America to get them away from it. There wouldn't be, and this is true as far my grandfather did move to America. He's the only one that came. I don't think he had any superpowers, but he does now.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
And he could become a crow. So each kid, I go through each story of how this crow sweeps in and almost touches them, and they end up with this superpower. Whether they can run fast, or they can be invisible, or they can shape shift. They do all different kinds of things. And I created an island in Belize that they live for training, and they have all the helicopters, and they learn how to fly all this stuff. So it was really fun. And then I didn't do the second book, so I put that book together, and it did really well. I mean, and it was funny because I didn't really expect that, because it says in the front, these are about my grandkids, and I tell what that came from. But then I wrote the second one, which is Imminence, and that's 7 years later.
Mhm.
So the kids are all older. And so now they're doing things with the FBI. And I just made up all this stuff. And it's just fun because I got an interesting review. Interestingly enough, yesterday I got an email,
Really?
and it said, yeah, that's weird. I just yesterday I read it, said that they had read Imminence.
Mhm.
And she said, I can't believe how you took this game and used modern day things. And there actually, this woman is, but not, oh, I can't think of the word. She's gathering kids, but that's not the word. Recruiting kids into
Recruiting,
her
yeah. Mhm.
into her little game thing, but she's doing it through gaming that the kids play.
Mhm.
And she said, I've never seen anything like this in my whole life. She said, I couldn't believe it. But I had to go to my, at the time, he was 12-year-old grandson and say, how do you do gaming?
Research with the grandchildren.
Yeah. And he loves it. I put his name in the front, that he's the one that helped me figure out the game. That was fun. But that book was very interesting because I always know where I'm going.
Mhm.
I know the beginning, I know the end. I don't know the middle ever,
Same, yeah.
but I know the
Frustrating
end.
sometimes.
You know where you're going. You just got to get there. But I got to the end of that book and I had it all in my mind, and I was typing the last paragraph, and the whole thing changed. I'm not kidding. That ending was not my planned ending. Not
Mm.
at all. Just the last paragraph was not what I planned. And it came to me and I was like, so I wrote it, and man, did I get I can't believe you did this. Really?
The
But
spirits were telling you.
yeah. But then it sent it off to a whole different direction. So
Right.
now the next book I'm working on is that I've got a handful of the kids are all over the place because they were doing research in schools, but now I've got a group of them are in Norway because the Norwegian group is trying to destroy the American group. They don't
Mm.
want them to continue with these
Right.
superpowers. So they're not trying to kill them. They're trying to take their powers away.
Okay.
Because I don't want to kill my grandkids.
Come on.
But so that's very different, but it does have the
Yeah.
paranormal in. And I've got some of that with beta readers right now, and I'm getting really good feedback on it. So,
I'm so
but they're
excited.
fun. I love to sit and create that kind of stuff. I just think it's fun.
Well, I was excited to because I knew you'd had the 2 out, and then when you said you were gonna start writing more, I was, like, so excited that you were going to continue sharing those little stories and stuff with us, and that you're writing the 2nd trilogy for
Yeah.
Mystic Angel now as well.
I was just going to write a fourth book. I just thought, but
Uh-huh.
then I don't recall. I was on a podcast for around Halloween about 2, 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And it goes, you don't write a fourth book, you do another trilogy. And I'm like, oh, well, that's an idea. So it's the second Mystic trilogy, is what I'm titling it. And the first was Mystic Passage. And it's crazy how it starts. It really is. But I think it's going to be fun.
I can't wait to read it because I've been waiting. I'm gonna go reread the other ones again just so I'm ready for it.
Well, I had to read the other ones again. I mean, because you know what? I was listening to somebody the other day. I don't know, it was your podcast or somebody about, oh, maybe it was one of our authors about bringing it together and how difficult that is.
Mhm.
Mystic Mansion was the hardest book to write.
Really?
Yeah, because I had to make sure all the loose ends were tied up together.
That's true,
Yeah, and
especially
I
with
keep
all
journals on each book, so I have all the dates and all that. So I had to go through, and yeah, that was a tough one. And I was like, and I had to get it done because I was challenged to have it done by FanX. That was
Mhm.
only 3 months. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I did get it done, but I didn't get it in time for there. So I think I got that one out in December instead of September. But yeah, that was a tough one. But I did it. I mean, I pulled it all together.
I can't even imagine because yours are so much bigger than mine was, and I'm still with my second one going back in and going, okay, what was I doing in this one that I need to line up? Because it's about the other character, but I've got the things I said in the first book about him. I got to make sure I keep
Yeah.
straight in the second one. I
And
can't
your
even.
book I can't wait for the next story of your book. I mean, I've been waiting that for a while.
I know. And we'll just have to work out a payment plan, you and
I
I,
know.
for that. But yeah, it's almost there, and I've been going through and editing and doing my job because I am.
Yep.
that. So, but that's so exciting that you're doing all these things, and you're also getting involved in teaching others now
Yep.
too. And I'm so excited that you're doing that because as an author, it's so nice when people share their knowledge.
Well, you know
And
what?
yeah.
The thing is too is I find that I mean it's the self-publishing, but I find I get a lot of calls about just the writing process and just so what I don't teach writing. I don't know that I people are writers or they're not kind of. I know I learned writing in school, obviously, but I've never really taken writing classes. It just all kind of came to me, I guess. But there's a lot of questions, and so I'm trying to put together courses on that too.
Mhm.
Not, and I'm not going to call them writing courses, but it's kind of the structure
Mhm.
of where to go. I remember in one of the classes I taught a couple of years ago, one of the girls in there said, well, we were talking about the costs of content editing at the time and
Mhm.
copy editing, it's expensive. And she goes, I got my book edited for $500. I'm like, what?
Okay.
And she held up the book and I'm like, and it was fairly thick. And
Mhm.
I didn't really say anything, but in my mind, I thought there's no way to do a deep dive because content editing is a deep dive. I mean,
Yeah.
you do it right, it's a deep dive.
I mean, you took it just a couple chapters at a time, even when mine was small, and it still took us some time to do.
It takes a while. It really does. And the thing is, everybody's stories are so fun and so unique. That's probably why I love the editing so
Yeah.
much. Is because it's so fun. I'm doing one right now. This girl, it's a memoir, but it's hysterical. It's just about she was a little girl, and it's
Mhm.
just so funny. But in her voice is it's so fun to read. So every one of them give me a different challenge. But I think it really helps my writing too, because I
Right.
learned a lot as I go. I'm doing my audiobooks this year
Mhm.
for my trilogy because I get so many requests for them. And as I go through them, I'm editing and updating and just fixing the things that sound better because I'm a much better writer than I was in 2014. We just get better, hopefully.
That's what I found when I was that's when we found all those edits was when I was doing my audiobook and slowed down and I was reading it out
Yes,
loud. That's when I found all my errors. I'm like, how did we miss this?
I know how, and that's the weird part. So I got a book back. Let's see. Well, let me just Alan Osmond's book when I wrote that book.
Mhm.
And we were the 3 nights. So it's done. It's been through editing, it's been through copy, it's ready to go. And Suzanne and I and Fran were working on it till 4 in the morning, 3 nights in a row. And we found so many little things. I'm like, what the heck? And we were on a deadline. We had to get it to the publisher. And so I mean, honest to Pete, I just remember you think you've got it all done. But here's the reality, Tanya. We all know we get our books done, we go back and we go, oh, you could edit them till the cows come home 100 times
Exactly.
over. You really can. So you have to draw a line somewhere.
It's like a final paper, right? You've just got to turn it in. I mean, I
Mhm.
remember days when I was turning in my final draft and literally, I'm like handing it in and I'm like marking things out and editing it. I'm
I
handing to
know.
my professor. And the funny thing is, I've got those papers still and I'll pull them out every once in a while. I'll start reading them and I'll start editing and write. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I'm not even turning it in that one guy. It's not even going anywhere.
Not going anywhere. One of the things that I've had a hard time with, and I really have to put my mind in the right place, is now because I edit all the time, I edit everything I pick up. It's like, oh my gosh, I just want to enjoy this story. So I have to force myself to just read the book. That's one
Yeah,
thing about so I bought every single book that our authors do. I buy every single one of them, but I can't read every single one of them, but that's why it's so fun to edit because I know your stories.
exactly. Well, that's the thing too, is I have to remember to separate myself too. I like, because otherwise I will get, when I'm
Yeah.
beta reading for someone, I'm like, they're like, they just want these things and I'm starting to like line edit. And I'm like, what? I'm like, English teacher brain is not shutting off. And so I have to remember to put myself in certain like positions when I'm reading now because
It's hard
I
though.
do.
It's really hard. The other thing too is this is one thing I stress about beta readers because we've had a couple people come into different author groups and they want to, and it's no, you don't want an author to be a beta reader. You want readers to beta reader. All you want
Exactly.
them to do is read your book. That's
Hmm.
it.
And tell you what they're
And
thinking.
so, yeah, just tell, what do you think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What, that's really all you're looking for. It's hard to convince people of that because they think they can beta read each other's books. And I know you've done beta reading, I've done beta reading. I know that, but I don't recommend it. I
Right.
always recommend just have somebody read your book.
And it's very hard to have that. And I think the only reason I sometimes feel like I can get away with it, even though it's hard sometimes, is because
Mhm.
I was an avid reader so much before and I've been a
Right.
teacher and I've had all these different roles where I've had to do those separations. but not everyone can separate themselves
Well,
so
they can't.
easily. And I mean, I find it hard sometimes still to do that.
Well, even the little edit contest we did,
I know, right?
I was dying. Yours was hysterical, by the way, because I knew your time frame. Like the thing is that we had two people literally rewrite the story. And I'm like, no, that's not, that's that you don't do that.
And it's hard
I just,
because literally I was like, I can ghostwrite this one that I was editing. I was like, can I just
I know.
ghostwrite this? I
I
just
know.
wanted to do the whole thing.
But it's very tempting. It really, truly is.
Mhm.
But I remember when Rick asked me to do editing, I was a little startled by that. But then I realized I've been editing my entire life. My ex-husband and I had a business for several years, and I wrote all the prospectuses for it. I wrote all the ads, all my dance stuff. I wrote all that myself. But at the time, you don't think about it that way, but it kind of came natural. It's kind of natural progression. So, but I really do love it. But I do know, and I'm very well aware, because I get told this all the time, that I don't. I had one lady, for example, she said, "How many hours do you spend on my book?" I said, "I don't know." And she goes, "Well, I don't know that." How did she say it? It was a ghostwriting book. And she says, "I don't know that I feel like I've gotten this much amount of work that should pay me." And I said, "Well, if I charge you by the hour, you wouldn't even let me do it because you just can't charge by the, I can't. I know editors do, but I can't charge by the hour. I've got to do a project, whatever price I give, which is a flat fee, I'll get your book done no matter what. But to me, it's more enjoyable. I love to ask questions. I love to find out what I'm trying to say here or not,
Or not.
or
Or
not. Sure, you want to say that?
or what POV are we in right now?
Oh my gosh, that is the
Our favorite
funniest part.
question.
That is the funniest part. I had a girl about 3 years ago when I first started editing, 3 or 4 years ago. She sent me her book and I said, "You have changed POV 4 times in the first paragraph, and you can't do that." But it's hard. That's a tough one. People are in and out of POV all the time, all the time. You can do it, but there's a way to do it so your poor reader knows who's talking. It's kind of important.
And that's one thing I will mention as a beta reader when I'm reading is like, I POV,
Yep.
especially now that you've like, hey everyone. And every time you bring this up, you're like, did you notice that? I'm going to say it's a POV problem, probably. I mean, that's all W that was drilling into our heads. POV. But no,
I
I
know.
mean, always saw it before, but now that you've like really focused in on it with us in our readers groups and our writers groups and stuff, it's like I see it everywhere.
Now you
And
see it everywhere.
it's like, yeah, and it's just very
Here,
aware in my mind.
here's another thing. So it's the saying the same words too many times or saying a name too many times. So I did this little, I don't know if you're in this group at the retreat one time, but I said, I read something in Mystic Angel and I said, "Tell me what's wrong with that."
Right. I do
Do you
remember
remember
that.
that?
Yeah.
And they're like, and I said, "How many times did I say Aspen's name?" And I look back like, what was I doing? So that's what I'm saying. I've learned so much myself
Mhm.
of what you do and do not do. But that's another thing and another thing we all do as authors is we say the exact same thing twice in different words. We'll say it and then we say it again over here in different words. It's hysterical, but everybody does it.
Mhm.
That's the funny part is everybody does it. So,
Vision combined. Yeah.
well, it's just that we're getting it out of our head and getting it
Mhm.
on paper. So
And sometimes it's like the same thing, but slightly different. I'm like, okay, those two things now, which one's the better
now put
way?
them
And how do
together.
you,
Yeah,
and I love that craft part of it. But to me, that's been some of the most fun is like, how do I make this
I do too.
up?
It always makes me feel, and I always tell the author, and you know this, I always say, less is more.
Mhm.
So when you see all the red, try to read the green and black, which is hard because the way I do it's in colors. But it's always very rewarding when an author goes, "Oh my gosh," because I took a 5 line paragraph, made it into two or something like that. They're like, "I didn't on it sounds better, but it's just more crisp
Mhm.
and more precise and to the point instead of a lot of extra words." Because let's face it, we all use a lot of extra words.
Yeah, I think that comes from school when they were like, hey, you have to have so many words. And
Yeah,
we just filled in all those words because they told
yeah,
us we need to fill in all those words.
I know. Do you know another thing that I don't concentrate on that I see a lot of authors do just in general is word count. I don't care about word count. Do you? I don't even
I
pay
don't.
attention.
I let it go until I'm like at the end and I'm like, oh, I need to tell someone how many words this is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Okay. That was and it's funny because half the time my kids at school, that's literally all they're doing is like hitting word count. And I'm like, and they'll ask me, how
Don't
long
worry
does it have to
about it.
be? I'm like, I all these teachers are like, we need to have so many words. I take those out of all the instructions. I don't care. We have
Yeah,
the same instructions. I take those out. I'm like, it's supposed to be what it's supposed to be. Do it until
right.
it's right. And I would rather have less that's better than more that's
Then more that's just fluff, because that's what happens when they're trying
I'll
to
take
fill
it
it
I'll
in.
take it out anyway. It's so I'd
I
rather have
know.
them start out good. And so yeah, that
I had a one day I got a call and they said, how much is this? How long is this book? It's 133,000 words. That's way too long. Bring that down. I said, nope, nope, because it needed I mean, not every word, obviously we edited a lot out, but it was still about 120,000 by the time we got done. But that's the story.
right. If it
So I
needs it,
don't
it
want to
needs
be,
it.
yeah, I don't want to be held to a word count. And the other thing that when way back when I first started to write, when I started Mystic Angel, I was in a physical writing group, not a Zoom one because it didn't exist.
Didn't exist. Yeah.
And I said, I was writing, the characters were not the right ages. And he said to me, this one guy said to me, Debbie, these kids can't be by themselves, that they were 9 and 11. So I went home and I thought, he's absolutely right. So I rewrote it, 16 and 17, but I still didn't like the book. I didn't know what was wrong with it. So I went back to readers group and and we all critiqued each other. It was really a fun group. And then I went home and I threw it all away. And I went into my computer and this was the problem. I wanted you to be in every character's head.
Hmm.
But growing up in school, you did not do that. You did not. It was like you got a failing grade if you did that.
Hmm.
So I started to look around and found books and I liked to read a lot of series when I was growing up too. As an adult, I read a lot of self-help books, all that kind of stuff. So it's not like I've just read Trixie Belden,
Oh
just
no,
so you
you
know.
did great.
I read my whole life.
You've read everything, I think,
Yeah, I
known to
read
man.
everything. But I wanted to be able to change. I want you to see every single character's thinking. So in the first chapter of Mystic Angel, you hear what every character's thinking. And I love that kind of writing. So I encourage it. A lot of people don't think you can do that, but as long as you tell your reader you're changing character, you can do that easily. And
And
it's more fun.
to me, it's fun. I mean, I don't mind a first person and seeing things from the outside, but
Right.
when you can be in everyone's heads and really connect to each character and what they're going through, it definitely is not for everyone, for sure, to
No.
tell different perspectives and to understand a different point of view and get those. It's like this, writing mine was hard that way to get a male perspective because
Yep.
most women write, a female perspective and
Hmm.
don't even really attempt to get that one. And I really wanted to show that other side. And but to me, that was a beautiful part of it was me learning and reflecting
Right.
and
You did a
seeing
great job with that too.
what
I
those
mean,
points of view are.
seriously.
And I appreciated that in yours too, because I'm getting this story over here and this story here over here, and you're seeing. And the cool thing is, they don't see where they're intersecting, but we, as the audience,
But
get
we
that
do.
dramatic
Yeah.
irony, right?
Yep.
And so we're seeing where they're intersecting, and we can see where it's going, but they can't. And it's just that's what built the mystery, and so much of the fun for me was to see all of those different things coming together and how they all.
Well, the fun part about it too was I was in teenagers' heads, I was in
Mhm.
adults' heads, I was in older people's heads, I was in
Yeah.
criminals' heads. So it was,
Ghosts' heads.
yeah, yeah, ghosts, all the spirits. In fact, my granddaughter, because the one character is named Kristen, that's her daughter. My grandkids are so weird. What I did is I put all their names in a bowl and pulled out four. That's how I chose who was going to be the first characters' names. That in, and now they're like, you didn't write my book. So they're all in Legend of the Crow. But anyway, she called me, she goes, Grandma, seriously, you killed me off right off the bat. I go, you are in every book,
Exactly.
every
You
book.
keep coming back.
So just keep reading it. She's like, oh. But that was one of that particular scene in that book. It's early in Mystic Angel, but that was a very emotional. It really was. I look back on now. I mean, I was just making it up.
It's hard sometimes. See, yeah, when I was going back to write my, because I took that 20-year break or whatever, when
Yes.
I went back to read it, it was hard for me to read too. I'm like, where did this come from? All those things. But I didn't change anything. Here's the thing, even through all of our editing and everything, that core part of it,
Yep.
none of
Stays.
that really changed because that was
Exactly.
so essential and so part of it. So, it's real when that happens, I think.
Yeah, it's true. My brother asked me after he saw my first book. I gave all of him a copy of my very first book. I was so proud. And I would stop at his house. And he goes, how do you come up with all this stuff? And I have no way to answer that question. I don't know. Every single book, there's been characters come to my brain that were never even thought of. They just appeared.
And yet they seem so real. And I don't know if this happens to you. A lot of people thought my book was real. I've had to like
Oh
literally
my
put a
gosh.
fictional story in there, even though it's based on real experiences. Like, this is fiction. But so many people were like consoling me and sending me
I know.
I was like, but have you had that with your book too? Did people
Yep.
like really think some of those things have happened? I mean, I know you've had real experiences as well with it that you based it on, but
Yeah, but you know what I have to do? The disclaimer. And so some people in my neighborhood just got the book the other day, and they said, she started reading, she goes, "You've had these experiences, haven't you?" And I said, "Yeah," but I said, "But I have never been stuck in a picture on the wall."
nope.
And I just wanted to point that out. So nobody thought I'd lost my mind.
Never been stuck in a room with them trying to kill me. We're
No,
good.
never had that happen. But I remember at work when another boss read my book and she called me aside and she said, I can tell you've had experiences because I have too. So I was really happy that they're relating to him in that way because they are real. I mean, they really are. But a lot of people think you're crazy. But have you seen? I'm going to send you this little link. I'll send it to you tonight. But he talks about it's this writer, and he's just talking. He said, "This is the only occupation I can." Something about being crazy. You can make a living being crazy.
Yeah.
And he said, I spend all day with people that don't exist. you know?
And it's been so fun because through the process of doing these podcasts, when I've talked to authors, so many of them do the same thing. And it's been nice and reaffirming that I'm not crazy, but the characters are telling us what they want us to do, right? That
Yeah, yeah.
they're telling us their story. And I'm like, and when they stop talking,
It's a problem.
you're like, where are you? I need to finish your story. Because it really is, it does feel so much like they're there and part of you and telling you
Yeah.
what they, and when you start writing, it's their voices and they're telling you what they're saying. And it's kind of a cool experience, but also, yeah, if you stop and think about it, we're totally
Yeah,
crazy.
I know. We're totally crazy. I saw this little comic, you've probably seen it on Facebook, and this little girl goes, "What's wrong with that woman?" She goes, "Nothing. She's a writer."
I need to have that on my wall somewhere.
It's so
What's
true.
wrong with
It's
you?
so,
Nothing. I'm a
what's
writer.
nothing? I'm a writer. But it is true. I mean, you think about my daughter said one time, my mom doesn't need any friends. She's got all her weird make-believe characters at her house. And we
Between
just laughed
theater
about,
and my writing, yeah,
yeah, same
I'm
thing.
that.
It's like we need human interaction, of course, but it is fun to, it's the thing about, it's like reading. You go someplace else
Mhm.
when you read. And
Exactly.
that's really my goal with my books. I'm not trying to heal anybody or that's not my stories. That's not why I write for fun and that people can just enjoy being there in that world. But it takes me away. I mean, it's a hard process, of course, but I don't find it hard until I'm winding things down. That's when
Right.
it starts to get difficult. And I remember one of our authors, if you remember, was talking about how sad she was to leave her characters.
Mhm.
I had a really hard time closing out Mystic Mansion, really hard time because I've been with these characters for 10 years. So
And now you get to come back to them.
I know.
Reunion.
Resurrection. They're not dead, but
Right? Well, I know
anyway,
you write for fun and they're very entertaining and they're so good and stuff, but do you find that I know you ghostwrite too. How different is ghostwriting than writing your own stories and stuff that way? How has that been a unique experience for you, I can
it's really
imagine?
hard work. I'm not going to lie. It's so different because everything has to be correct. Like I'm doing the life story of Esther Mance. She's the lady that created Tops, which
Oh,
was Take Off Pound Sensibly. She was born in 1936, I believe. I mean, she's dead. She died in the 90s or something. But the president of Top asked me if I'd write her life story. And you have to gather all this information, just like I did Alan's book, and then it has to be right. So that's why it has to go back and forth with the person. So the granddaughter's the author of this book, and it has to go back and forth. It takes tons of research, tons and tons of research. And I really did. I must have watched 130 of Osmond's videos when I was writing that book. Just to understand, I needed to understand what Alan was like as a child. I needed to understand that process. And I take it very seriously. I'm doing one right now that also that's a near-death experience.
mm,
And her story is amazing and trying to get it on paper. And so I take that very seriously to get their story out the way they want it said. So it's a very different process. I don't call it fun, my writing is fun,
mhm.
but it's very rewarding to put those books together. But it is a different process entirely, the research and the work. I mean, I had this much, I kid you not, stack of printed research that I had printed out so I can move because I have to sometimes look at it of Alan's book. And it was hard to let those papers go to. I thought, do I want, but the book's published, Debbie, get rid of them. I don't need all that. But it was hard because it took so many, and it takes about a year process. But even at that, Rick told me, that's amazing. You turned out that book in a year.
I was gonna say to take, especially someone as famous and prolific as an
Mhm.
Osmond.
That was 6 decades. And I met them in October and we published it the following September. So not quite a full year. And it was tough, but I'm very proud of it. I mean, it
Oh,
turned out really well. They really like it. So that's kind of started the precedence of where I want to go with ghostwriting. And I've had people bring me manuscripts. I'm like, if they can't give me, I've got to pull information out of them. If they can't give me, I can't write their book.
mhm.
So I've had to turn a couple of projects away because it's like, you don't really, I don't want to make your story up. That's not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to write your story. I'm supposed to make it into a story, obviously, but I can't just make stuff up.
Has to be your story.
Yeah, it's got to be authentic. So, but then I do have another children's book I'm trying to get. It's called
Oh,
Bella's Great
good. I
Adventure.
was gonna
Yeah,
say you also have children's book. She's prolific, you guys. I'm just saying. All
that
of
just
the
came out of nowhere, though. You know that was a funny thing. I just got a challenge to write a story about witches,
so
so
it
I
was a
did.
Mary Shelley thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just on Facebook with a bunch of friends from high school I hadn't seen in 50 years, and they were saying, "Debbie, you should write a story about this," because it was that little meme that you see that says, "Yes, I can write a stick, that witch," and I thought, okay. So I just wrote a little story and that afternoon, and I printed it out and mailed it to him, and everybody loved it. I thought I'm going to turn this into a book, and so I worked with an artist and an illustrator in England, and it's a fun book. That sells really well. It
That is
sells really,
my granddaughter's favorite book. I'd say you've met her. She
yeah.
loves you. So
It's
yeah.
a, thank you. It's a fun book. It was just, and then again, it just was one of those. Okay, let's just write this. So I didn't have any. I knew where I was going with that book, but that book just was like, what are we doing here? Just these six little boys that are 10 years old.
Which was fun. That was an appropriate thing for them to be doing at that age, unlike Mystic Age, right?
I know. Well, but the thing is, these guys are skateboarders. Remember,
Mhm.
they were skateboarders, and they went to their grandma's house. So if you put it all together, they weren't doing anything. It was Halloween. I
They
mean,
were
they weren't
totally not
doing,
being naughty and
no, they
going
weren't
out
doing,
without permission or anything
no,
else.
they weren't doing anything wrong. It was just, I remember when I wrote the very first part of that, the little boy named Bobby, when he saw his grandma's broom move,
Hmm.
that just started the whole thing in my head. It just, oh my gosh, this is going to be fun. So
It,
that was a fun
it was
story.
it's a fun story. It's so with all of these books and with all of these things you're doing, is there a theme or something that comes through that you find yourself always kind of coming back to or seeing as a thread through them that with everything?
I think most of it is, so I like a challenge. When I'm reading a book, and even movies. I love movies. I always have loved movies because I like to, especially, I don't like slashers and that kind of, I don't like
No,
that.
yeah,
I like mystery. And I do like Forensic Files. I love to see how they figure things out. I just love that stuff. You don't ever see them being killed or anything. So you
right.
get to look at the process of it. And I think with my books, I want people to be engrossed in them to where I don't have when you say a theme, I think, I remember Rick asked me one time, why do you write? I said, just for fun, to take people away and just for fun. And I, it was kind of challenging for me to answer that question because so many people are writing, they want to do this and they're trying to help with this. And I don't do that, So I'm like, maybe it's
I
not
think
that great.
that's okay. No, I think we need to read for entertainment and we need to see. And it's interesting because Mystic Angel and Legends of Crow, it's still about, for me, I got out of them this empowerment idea, that the idea that kids can, and these stories and touching and relationships, and you got a lot going on, even if it's fun. So,
You know what? That's a good point because it was interesting to watch my grandkids read those. They were younger, and it was fun to see them see themselves in a position like that because they got to choose their own identity and everything in there. And as I write those books, it's challenging right now to write those books because I'm creating real life experiences with crime,
mm,
but it's not the shoot 'em up killer crime. It's not that kind of crime. But I mean, one of the guys gets kidnapped right at the very beginning
mm,
of the new book. And when I first wrote it, I didn't know what I'm going to do with that. But then it
right.
just kind of, it came to me and then it kind of I don't know if you're like this, but I think you are. My stories develop as I write. And what do they call us? I don't like that word.
Answers. Yeah.
It's, you know why it's that way? I didn't know this till the other day. It's because we write from the seat of your pants.
Yep. Exactly.
I didn't even know that. I like the term writing into the dark better.
Me too.
I like that way better. I like it, but that's what it is. You're literally just writing and letting the story take you wherever it goes.
Hmm. Yeah, I've not ever really been a planner. I mean, my mother had me outlining stories and essays and stuff when I was growing up and stuff, but and this last book I tried to plan a little bit, but it is soon devolved into just
Mm-mm.
no. And I had to outline it a little bit because it was telling me the characters were telling me stories out of order. And so I had to go,
Yes.
okay, this goes here, this goes here. So I'm putting together a puzzle right now and it's yeah, so but
Well, even when
that's the only place I plan.
yeah, exactly. Even when I wrote Mystic Angel, and all of a sudden I started to get confused of the ages and what their birthdays. So that's when I started the journals,
The journals, yeah.
and I have a genealogy of each of the families. So in fact, I'm going to put that in this next book because people have asked me so much about that.
That would be so cool. I know we've talked about ways to like enhance things or giveaways and stuff. I love the
Hmm.
genealogies or like a little family tree. And
Yeah, because they want to know whose kid is this. In fact, I that was one of the complaints. There was a complaint about Miss Legend of the Crow.
Mhm.
I'm not Legend of the Crow, Imminence. Legend of the Crow was pretty cut and dried because each
Right.
chapter was about each kid. But Imminence is like, who do they belong to and who's their parents? So I did and I didn't do it. I'm putting it in. Maybe I did. Yeah, I put who the kids were. That's right. It's in there. Who the parents were of each group of kids because there's 17 kids
Mhm.
and six sets of parents. And so they had to know who they belonged to kind of figure it out. I got a kick out of my son, my oldest son, when he read it. He goes, yeah, it's pretty cool that I own the Hummer and the helicopter.
I love that you have included your family so much and they are woven into your stories. And I think if I were to sit down and learn all the stories of kids, when I read the book, I would be like, oh, and I
Oh,
would see so much more. So much
and
fun.
it's in Legend of the Crow, it is their personalities. In Mystic Angel and those books, it's not, it's just their names. But I mean, it comes into my head once in a while, but I wasn't trying to write around their personalities. But Legend of the Crow, that series is definitely their personalities. So that's been a fun thing. Yeah.
Well, is there anything coming out? Where can we find your stuff to buy, support, follow, engage with you?
Thank you. I'm, of course, on Amazon. It's under Debbie Ihler Rasmussen because there's lots of Debbie Rasmussen. So it's
Yep,
Ihler,
I
IHLE. And then my website's just author.debbieihlerrasmussen.com. And there's all the books are there. There's t-shirts on there too. I'm trying to create other things too. I've got so many ideas. I wish I had more days. You'd probably, we all do. Because there's this other part of me over here that wants to create all this other stuff that goes with the books. And just, you got to get them written first. So that was that.
yes, yes, we do.
Yeah, so that's the main thing. And then I'm trying to put together for sometime in March or April a Salt Lake book signing. And I don't know if I'll have my book ready, but I'd like to do that with different authors to put that together.
I love it.
So that would be fun. But yeah, I'm just trying to get Mystic Passage and why can't I remember the third book in Legend of the Crows? My mind is a blank. Anyway, I can see it. I can't think of it. That sounds silly. It's my own book. But anyway, that's the third one there. So those two, I really want to get those out this year. But one of my also projects do my audiobooks on. I get lots of requests for audiobooks on the trilogy. So and I want to do it myself. So,
I found I was worried about that to begin with, but I really enjoy the process of that.
oh, I'm glad you read it. I loved it. The thing is, I know my characters. You know your characters. So you have somebody else read it. I don't think they can get that. And not that they don't do a good job, but this isn't just from one point of view. There's so many different characters that you got to have the feeling of each one. So that's why I want to do
I look forward to having
them. Thank you.
Audible library. That's how my husband does most everything is he'll put on audibles and
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh, Audible's a big deal now. I mean, so many people, that's what they do. I still enjoy reading a book, but I do listen to Audible too.
Yeah, my husband's like, you've got so many books. I've got too many bookshelves. And yeah, okay, I'm just gonna
I
have to
know.
get more.
I got rid of a bunch of books when I was down here, just a bunch of stuff that I hadn't read in years. I read everything on my shelves, but now it's starting all over again. So I got to build more shelves or something. I don't know.
I think there's worse things we could have as hoarders.
Yes. I love books. I always have. What's funny too, just briefly, when I was a kid, my brothers and sister thought it was weird because I asked for a book every Christmas and every birthday.
Mm.
I always wanted a book and I knew exactly what book it was. And Mom always got it for me. Somebody did. I always got the book. So, and I'd love to go Barnes and Noble. I mean, I could like live in there and
I'm
go in
not
and just,
allowed in there without supervision.
oh my gosh, that's funny. I remember the first time my cousin, she said, she went on Facebook and she goes, I decided to get a book. I forgot what it was. She goes, and guess who I found my cousin's books in there? That's when I knew I was in Barnes and Noble in Utah. I didn't know that
Oh, uh-huh.
until then. So I went over there myself and took a picture of my books on the shelf. And they had them in the wrong place for the genre, but they were right above Stephanie Meyer's Twilight. So who
You can't
cares?
argue with that. I'm like, good placement to
I know.
get
I
some
know. I thought it was
engagement there
funny.
at least. So
That was fun.
did you sign a few some
Yeah.
of the yeah, that's awesome.
And then I did a book signing right after that. And so they
Sweet.
kept a bunch of them. I did a book signing in that store. So they kept a bunch of them. So yeah, that was fun. I've had a lot of really fun experiences with book signings. I hear a lot of authors don't enjoy doing them, but I think they're fun. They don't always sell a lot of books at them, but they're fun to meet people. And
That's what I've enjoyed about them is meeting people. And now that the play is getting over, I'm going to get a whole bunch more set up for
Mhm.
everything. And I'm not doing camp this summer, so I'm going to try and get a bunch set up. And yeah,
Well,
I
your book is amazing, and it's a tearjerker. I mean, there's no question about it. When I
it
was
is.
reading it, I mean, there's only been like 3 books that I've cried through when I've been editing, and yours is one of them. It just has that. It's so good, and I see why people think it's real. I really do, and I can see why they're giving you condolences.
Well, I guess that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. It is a good thing for sure, for sure.
Well, thank you for being with me, Debbie. It's so good to catch up. I know we haven't talked in a while because my
I
busy
know.
I look forward to getting back on our calls. So,
I know.
um,
Thank you, Tanya.
thank you guys and everyone. Hey, go check out Debbie's stuff. She's great. If you like paranormal, if you like sci-fi, if you just like fun, if you like Alan Osmond, if you like children's books, go check out all of her stuff and know that you can write your story. Know that there's a way path forward. If you're thinking about writing your book, get in there. It's not as hard as you think. And
No, that's right.
know you're loved. And we'll talk to you next time, guys.
Thanks, Tanya. Bye bye.